everybody. I'm here for episode 2 of Ctrl Alt Speak, and I'm joined today by Ryan from PCB Solicitors. Hey Ryan, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I'm well, Chris. Thanks. And now yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. It's a bit warm, very busy with work. How's lockdown life? Are you at the office at the moment, or is this your
I am
spare
at
bedroom?
the office at the moment. This isn't my bedroom. This is our office in Shrewsbury. So obviously things have changed a massive amount. I'm a partner in PCB, so there's some responsibilities that come with that, such as signing checks, making sure the post goes out, and things like that. So although we've all significantly increased our home working, I've still had to come in the office, a few days here, a week really, just to make sure that we'll carry on running as best as we possibly can.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, but for the benefit of obviously you and I have known each other for a few years in the business community, but for the benefit of the people that don't know you and don't know PCB, tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name's Ryan. I'm Ryan Bickham. I'm a solicitor, a partner. I specialise in dispute resolution and employment law. So the main things that I deal with are usually people who've fallen out for whatever reason over a contract or because of employment issues. And my main focus obviously is the law, but in terms of the way I deal with things is to look for a resolution as early as possible, because clients want a cost-effective solution and they want it to be resolved as quickly as possible. That is not always the case, because it takes two parties to come to an agreement. But personally, my preference is to try and resolve things as quickly and amicably as possible. In terms of PCB solicitors, we do quite a wide range of services. Obviously, dispute resolution and employment law, which is what I do. But in the main, we cover all areas: family law, wills and probate, conveyancing, which is buying and selling a house, commercial conveyancing, so buying and selling, leasing premises, some commercial law, drafting shareholders agreements, etc., and criminal law. So that could be if you get in trouble with the police, or it can be just some people need assistance with speeding offences and things when they might have totted up too many points, and looking at mitigation and options that are available to them. So a full wide range of services that we cover, and I enjoy what I do, and I think everybody here does. And as a firm, we quite like we think we've got a friendly atmosphere. One of our kind of main thoughts is it's quality advice from friendly people, and so when we deal with people, we try to be kind of speaking in a language that they understand, not too too much legal speak. We try and come across friendly, because it's a very stressful time for every client. Whether it's buying a house or dealing with the death of a loved one, it's a stressful time, and if we can be there to help with that in any way, then we will be. So that's kind of PCB in a nutshell, and myself in a nutshell. And yeah, we've got a few offices across Shropshire. We've got an office in Knighton, in Powys, and we kind of focus on delivering services from those offices to individuals and businesses, really.
Yeah, very widespread portfolio of services. How many people have you got in the business at the moment?
It's just over 70 people, I think, we have working for us. So yeah, and across 5 sites. So our main office is Shrewsbury, and then we've got office Telford, Church Stretton, Ludlow, Knighton. Yeah,
you haven't missed any, have you?
I'm thinking now have I done that? If I have, I'm very sorry to that office.
Yeah, we're sorry, random office in faraway place. You've all just been relegated because Ryan couldn't remember your office name. Yeah, I guess it's very. I guess it can be very challenging with that whole plain sense approach. I know we obviously work in an industry that's full of 3-letter acronyms and 4-letter acronyms, and then you've got your legalese as well. So yeah, communication's quite important there, isn't it?
I think it is, and from dealing with yourselves personally, I think you do very well in explaining it to us in ways that we can understand, that we can, because often what will happen is we'll have a meeting to discuss an issue, and then I've got to then feed that back to others, and so if I don't understand it when I speak to you, I can't then explain it to somebody else. So
yeah, and it's going to be the same with your clients. They need to, obviously, they're wanting your professional advice and opinion on things, and they need to understand that advice so that they're making fully informed decisions on it. So how would you say lockdowns affected the business? You said obviously as a partner you're in the office quite a bit to keep the engine turning. How would, as a firm, how would you say you've been affected?
Well, straight away before lockdown, I think the announcement was about the 23rd of March. We were already looking at that stage, basically on the premise that possibly all our staff would be working from home. And so we quickly as possible thought, well, what is the worst case scenario? And that is everybody working from home. And how do we meet that? Luckily, we have a system, remote desktop, which allowed us, we already had home working for some staff. And so really the main kind of barrier was getting the equipment working and getting the equipment to staff. So in some cases, they already had their own equipment, which we, just had a checklist for, up-to-date software, up-to-date virus, things like that. Yeah. And then we can approve it. And for some, it was just a case of literally taking the computers out of the office, keeping a record, and then and taking them home. It's not ideal, but it's what kind of worked in those very quick, difficult circumstances. So that was kind of the way from working in an office to working at home is a big change, and then kind of a lot of the work inquiries and the way we deal business is on the phone. So the second kind of barrier was the phone systems, but we have we've got a pretty up-to-date phone system. We were able to transfer offices to the main Shrewsbury number. We were able to transfer desk numbers to mobiles. And so again, yes, there were barriers, but we quickly adapted so that we could carry on functioning. Then as a business, there has been some changes. Straight away, conveyancing was put on hold. And so that is going to have a massive impact on the amount of work that we're doing in terms of our conveyancing, which is an area that we deal with. So yeah, things change quite quickly, but luckily, I think we're now opening up. We're seeing lots of new inquiries for conveyancing. I'm actually quite surprised in terms of the amount of new inquiries we've received in that area. And so now it's kind of looking in the medium term to where do we get to the point where we were, probably, because I think things were starting to affect us in March, but I think so February this year, how do we get back to that? And I think, luckily, I think we've got, a good strategic plan in how we get there, and we've got a good team. And that's one of the key issues, really, is that our teams have been so adaptable so quickly, and that's really worked. And then kind of the other significant change is that my department has always been what we call paperless or paper light. So we try and keep most of our documents in our case management system without printing copies off unnecessarily. But some of the departments hadn't quite moved to that. And by now, most departments are working in that way. It's much more efficient. It's much easier. Don't have to take physical files home. And, that is where our documents are is locked in a server and that's protected by, software and encryption. So that provides us with security in that there isn't a physical file, because, it does happen. People do lose paper files. People, luckily not us, but people do leave them on trains. And, there's cases, very common cases of things where people leave things lying around. And so if you've got that protection where there's no physical file and the data is protected. It gives us a lot better protection. So, lockdown has changed the way we've worked, but actually, I think in some respects, it's made the way we work better and more efficient.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it, and that's a common trend we've seen across our clients with the adaptability. Something that crossed my inbox earlier today was one of the local universities. They've had to move to distance learning for delivery of their courses, and they had previously said it would take 4 years to move to that type of delivery, and the reality of it, they've probably done it in 4 days. And I think that shows how adaptable industry has had to be because of everything that's going on. You guys are obviously quite high tech from a technology point of view. You've got all your VPNs, you've got your remote desktops and other measures in place. There's one manufacturing customer that we have that springs to mind. They didn't even have any provision for remote working. So we've had to do that from cold, and the demands on day one, everybody was on the phone going, we need to be working from home now, and literally the first 2-3 weeks of lockdown was, can you set our remote working up, please? Can we have a VPN? And it's been really quite something. How have your clients adapted with the change in working? I know you and I have had a couple of conversations online about video conferencing. How has the move to remote affected how you're delivering service to the clients, and how have they adapted with that?
I think it's obviously been different. Because we are quite a friendly firm, we do quite like to meet people, and there is no kind of substitute for meeting someone in person and discussing cases with them, getting a feel for them getting a feel for you. So we've had to move that either to a telephone conference or to video conferencing. So we internally use Microsoft Teams. So we've, like my department, we have department meetings on Teams, which has worked really well, and just sending messages and things. And in fact, I think going forward, I'm thinking, well, how can we use Teams more? Things like SharePoint and almost creating an intranet. And then for clients, we've used Zoom video conferencing and Skype for Business for courts as well. I mean, that was another kind of adaptable change, is that the courts had to move quite quickly to an online way of working, and they were using Skype for Business and Zoom, and I think it's been again shown that can be done. But I think in the long term, I think it can't be a replacement for that face-to-face meeting, and it can't be for, say, like a contested dispute, because a lot of kind of evidence that a witness gives, you're looking for cues, you're looking for the demeanour, and I think it's very difficult to kind of assess, via a video conference. But in the main, I think clients are kind of I think everybody understands it. I mean, some clients still want to meet face to face, and to do that, we've adapted a risk assessment. We've put things in place in our offices so we can. But our preference and my preference is still, telephone conference and Zoom video conference for the foreseeable future. It's been quite good. I like that you can see someone rather than on the phone, but sometimes it's just easier to pick up the phone and have a chat. But yeah, for a video conference, I think for initial meeting, it can work well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that whole demeanour, the posture, the emotion. So to strike a rapport, as you say, to understand that demeanour, and you do lose so much of it via a video call. But you're right as well. You can't beat picking up the phone. Sometimes it's just quicker and easier to do that. So, which is your favourite, Teams or Zoom? Teams,
definitely. Personally, I think there are some nice features in Zoom. You can see more people at the same time, but for kind of security for us, Teams is more secure. But Zoom is probably the one that's kind of got the easier user interface. You just send the client a meeting and a password, and then that's it. And I think because a lot of people are using Zoom in their personal life, me personally, we're using it we have a pub quiz on a Tuesday between friends, and we do that on Zoom. So I think a lot of people know about Zoom more, so that it's easier for the clients to access Zoom. But personally, I prefer Microsoft Teams. It's a lot, it's very easy to schedule through Outlook, and you can share documents, record the meeting if you need. Which I know you can do that on Zoom, but I just feel that Teams is better for me, and so that's why we use it internally. So.
Yeah, Teams definitely has that tighter integration around the working environment. So if you're, you guys obviously use Microsoft products day to day. We use Microsoft product day to day. So you've got that integration and just scheduling from your Outlook calendar. Absolutely, but yeah, what you're saying about your clients, and I think what Zoom have really got quite polished is you just install the app on your phone and away you go.
Yeah.
And almost the ease of access is there, almost too easy. Whereas with Teams, it's a little bit more involved to really use it and really do that properly. Do you think? Obviously, long term with the court system, and I'm guessing they haven't been operating at capacity, so there's going to be backlog. They'll be innovating with different types of technology for that. Do you think we'll see more moving forward? Do you think we'll see more court time on video conferencing as opposed to in the flesh?
I definitely think so. I think the kind of court timetable has always been to look at moving to a more digital environment. And they already did have access to Skype for Business, but even that in itself is obsolete theoretically now.
Yes.
And so they're already playing catch up. But I think long term, I definitely can see a direction. So in court proceedings, not every kind of hearing before a judge is to decide all the issues. You might call that a trial, where the judge will listen to evidence from different people and then make a judgment. And actually, those trials aren't a lot of the time what happens. A lot of the time, we have what called directions hearings, and that's where the case management of the case is decided. So, when should the witness statements be done? When is the evidence report needed? And so, for those hearings going forward, I can't see any reason why they wouldn't be by video conference, because they're generally just solicitor for each party and the district judge. There's the very rarely do at a directions hearing would a judge hear witness evidence, and I think that will make it a lot easier because you don't have to factor in the travel time to Birmingham on the train, a whole day out of the office. You just know when your court hearing is. You've got your bundle, you've got your case summary ready. And you wait for the judge when he's ready and you hear it, and so I think it'll save a lot of time and costs doing things like that. But then, and I think there have been trials by video conference, and I don't know if that will become the norm. Personally, like I say, I don't think it should be. I mean, it's got to be safe. They've got to have, especially with with no vaccine, the coronavirus, etc. ongoing, there needs to be health and safety considerations. But I think in terms of long term, I do think a trial must, for me, should always be in person, especially when people are giving evidence, and it can be so crucial as to, because things can change, depending on what evidence is, and sometimes you need to be there to kind of adapt. So I think they will change. I think the court system will change. How significantly it will change, I don't know at this stage. But the positives are that the courts are starting to open up again now, with more staff, with more trials. I think jury trials have started in some courts already. It's positive that they feel that we're in a stage now where they can put the relevant protections in place that things can be moved back to normal. But like you said, there's a backlog, and that backlog's even bigger. I know from where areas that I'll deal with, in a civil trial, you were looking at 12 months, in employment tribunals, sometimes 18 months. And so those times are going to be even longer now, I imagine.
A lot of uncertainty then for all the parties involved, isn't it?
It is, and that's why my approach is to try and look for a resolution at the earliest opportunity, because the longer it goes on for, the longer the stress, the longer the time, the longer the costs. So you've always got to be looking at settling it, even if it's not necessarily your best case on settlement. You think, well, I've saved costs, I've saved time, I've saved stress.
Yeah, exactly. There's more to it than just the financial side of it, isn't there? There's the emotional side. There's the hassle and the stress of doing that. What we're saying is really the pandemic and the impact it's had on the court system, the legal industry generally. I'm hearing mostly positives in terms of service for the customer, speed of resolution, and technology is certainly enabling there. Do you think there's any negatives?
I think there is, because and quite early on we were it's a supervision really, being in the office with people. Quite often my team, they will come to me and say, I've just got a quick query, Ryan, on this file. And so that supervision isn't really there from home working. So that kind of way, there might be a bit of kind of, do I need to ask a question? They might just make an assumption, and so that could lead to mistakes being made and problems later on down the line. So I think there will, as much as people need to work from home at the moment, I think going forward it can't be permanent. There has to be a point where people can come together, and that's where MS Teams is quite good, because there's almost a text message chat function on it, where literally you can text. My people who work in my team can just text me and go, "Oh, Ryan, what do you think about X?" Or so there's issues with supervision, and just because, and also there's negatives of being at home alone on your own, I think, and it can. For some people, like I'm lucky. I've got a wife and 2 children, but I can imagine some people who are at home on their own, 24/7. That can that can be.
I'm sure there's some people that are saying you're also unlucky.
There may have been times when I said that as well, but
yeah, it is very true. One of the certainly what we've done with our team here is we've put a lot of effort into inclusion, and we've got a variety of team where some are home with family, some are home alone, and we've put a lot of work into inclusion and making sure that nobody's left out and festering at home on their own. And that's, I think the potential impact to mental health of our workforce is very significant. If you were going to give a top tip for somebody that's managing a remote team, what would you say to them?
I think it would just be to every now and again just give them a ring. Not to check up on them, because for me, I don't feel like I have to check up on them. I trust the team that I've got. And
nobody likes a micromanager, though, do they?
No, nobody likes that. But I think a phone call out, every now and again, just say, "You all right? Is anything I can help you with?" Is good. And from departmentally, what we do is, and this is across the firm, we have what we call file reviews. So many files get reviewed a month, just so we can make sure there's no issues there that are coming up. So those are the kind of main things, really, just to kind of avoid those negatives.
Ryan, with the remote working, there's a lot of data that needs to be moved around for cases. How do you make sure that the stuff that doesn't need to be shared isn't shared?
So we do put a lot of effort into training staff. So all staff have got compulsory data protection training. that they have to adhere to. We've got a data protection policy. I will email quite regularly about data protection and steps that staff have got to take. I think, again, the benefit of the remote desktop system is that everything is kind of, it's locked into the server and generally shouldn't be shared. But there is times when we do need to share information. So when that happens, again, we've got policies in place. And so, for example, if we have to share like medical records, which sometimes you do in a family case or a personal injury case, we will password protect the file and send the password by an alternative means of communication. So what that means in essence is we will password lock a PDF of the medical records, send that by email, and then we will either text or write to the person that is getting the password so that they can access it from their end. I'm not being judgmental or critical, but I've seen times before where people have password protected a document by email and then sent the password in the next email. And I just think, well, why did you password protect it? Because if you're worried about it being accessed by email, then the next email could easily have been accessed. So that's our policy, and that's the things that we have. Like I said, the way that we've moved to kind of a more paperless working. So, historically, solicitors have big paper files full of lots of paper documents. And if people were working at home, they might have to sign those files out and carry them home. But now, because everything is saved in a central system on our case management system, they can access it by just logging in, and there's no kind of paper that needs to leave the office. It's great, and it saves on printing as well, which is good for budgets and things like that.
Yeah, well, it cuts your print costs down. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna use the 4 letters GDPR.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as that legislation came about, there was a lot of hoo-ha. There was a lot of GDPR consultants and practitioners turning up after 2-3 day training courses. I think there were a lot of people just trying to make some hay on the back of that. But then more recently, I think it's fair to say it's kind of gone a bit quiet. Do you think we're going to see some people falling foul of that, or do you think it's had its moment and it's just going to fade into the background?
I don't think it will fade into the background, and the kind of one of the points that I always made, and I made it in 2018, is that data protection law has been around since at least, and in a different form, earlier 1998.
Yeah.
So data protection is always, you have always been responsible for protecting your client's data. It's just that there was a lot of kind of fanfare, shall we say, about GDPR in May 2018. But you really should have had processes in place before May 2018. So I think GDPR is just as relevant now as it was in May 2018. The Information Commissioner's Office is still there. They're still dealing with inquiries, defining people, and at worst, we're probably seeing some some litigation really about data protection now. We have dealt with some data breaches where we've made a claim against organizations, and in the main, there were issues that have occurred, and the people entitled to be compensated for that. Don't want people to be kind of relaxed about data protection. It's not something you should be relaxed about at all. But you do need, you need to have at least thought about it and clearly be kind of confident that your client's data and other people's data is secure, and that it can't just be accessed by everybody, and it can't be isn't shared with everybody. And if you're holding it, that you've got good reason for holding it, and that you get rid of it when you need to. You could do a whole podcast on GDPR alone.
Yeah, we could.
I think everybody's kind of aware of it, and I think as a solicitor, we're not lucky, but we've always kind of been aware of confidentiality and things like that, and so we've always taken steps. The simple just wearing a headset so that if somebody is listening, they can only hear one side of the conversation. I mean, the ideal situation is nobody's listening, and that you're having telephone conferences and video conferences in private. But just the simple step of a headset, so that it's people can't hear a two-way conversation. Just a small thing that people can do to protect themselves.
It's just basic stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
One question that we're going to be asking every guest on our podcast: what's the one piece of technology you couldn't imagine life without?
It's difficult, this one. I did think about it, but I think it would have to be like my iPhone or my smartphone, because I think it's almost like a mini office. The way that it works now is that I've got Outlook, which has all my emails and calendar. I've got other apps that allow me to do work. I don't, but I theoretically can log into a remote desktop from my iPhone.
It's a bit small though, isn't it?
It is a bit small, but if needs must. I mean, when I asked this and when I was thinking about it, there's a story from not last Christmas, the Christmas before. We had a settlement agreement, and it's just before Christmas, and the client wanted it all signed off before Christmas so that he could get the settlement monies before the Christmas holidays, which as a firm we want to meet their needs. But the agreement needed signing by the Friday before Christmas, and that was our Christmas work due. And and by the time we left for the Christmas work due, the agreement still hadn't come into the office. And I didn't really want to just sit there twiddling my thumbs waiting for an agreement to come. So
you want to be there.
I want to be there. I didn't drink. I wasn't drinking actually, but I did want to be there because I think it's important. We don't get together that often as a whole team, so it's important that we when we do we meet. So then the agreement, it came through. I think it was about 7:00 at night. And I do remember going to a bathroom stall, checking the agreement, reading through it, signing it using I think Adobe Sign, signed the agreement, forwarded it on to the client, make sure that she was happy with it, she signed it, and then sent it back. And it meant that we met that time limit, and the client was going to get her settlement monies before Christmas. And that was all possible because I had my phone on me.
That's definitely above and beyond the Call of Duty, that, Ryan. Signing legal agreements in the stall of a toilet on a Friday night on the works Christmas do. That's not something every lawyer is going to be able to come out with, is it?
No, I am kind of someone who does try to separate my home life, work life, and have a good kind of balance. But sometimes needs must, and on that occasion, the need musted, and I just wanted to, we wanted to meet that client's expectation, and I could do it. And it, in terms of my time, it was maybe 10, 15 minutes time away from the party that I just spent, just finalising something. It obviously had a big, the client was happy because it was what they wanted, and it was a little sacrifice for them.
Well, that's the difference though, isn't it, Ryan? It's when your client knows that at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, if it's a 10-minute thing and you're just going to get on and sort it because it's important, then that adds that little bit of extra value. And it's not really something you can put on a brochure, but it means so much.
I mean, I think a lot of the best marketing anyone can do is just to provide a good service, really, and that's what we try and do.
If the listeners and viewers of the podcast wanted to find out more about you and PCB Solicitors, how can they do that?
Well, you can get on our website at pcbsolicitors.co.uk. If you've got a query, you can give us a ring on 01743 248 148, or you can email me, ryan.bickham@pcblaw.co.uk. One of the things that we do offer often is an initial, what we call case assessment, for free. Sometimes people are offering in a solicitor because they do cost quite a lot of money sometimes, and we aren't going to shy away from that because sometimes our services are quite niche and we have to provide a lot of work. But what we will do is try and speak to people, give them a kind of idea of the cost before they make any commitment. And then if we can't help them, we all, I'd like to think that we try and put people in the right direction. Often we can help them.
Ryan, I'm really grateful for your time this afternoon to record this. Seeing you soon for some, actually in person for networking and beer. That
would be good. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.